they never came to hold her. My daughter was born on a Tuesday morning in March, 7 pounds and 2 ounces, and my in-laws, who live 40 minutes away, never came to the hospital. Not that day, not the day after. Because I had refused, 8 months earlier, to name her after my mother-in-law's grandmother. And apparently, that was unforgivable. I'm getting ahead of myself, let me back up. My husband and I had been together for 6 years before we got married. I knew going in that his family was complicated. His mother had strong opinions about everything. Where we'd get married, what flowers we'd use, whether I should keep my last name. I smiled through most of it because I loved him. And because his family could be genuinely warm when things were going their way. His dad would show up to help us move furniture without being asked. His younger sister would text me funny videos on hard days. So I told myself, this is family, it's messy, it's worth it. We got married the summer before last, small ceremony, outdoor venue in the hill country just outside Austin, about 90 people. It was, despite everything, one of the best days of my life. My husband cried when I walked down the aisle. I didn't expect that. I'll never forget it. About 4 months after the wedding, we found out I was pregnant. We were terrified and thrilled in equal measure. The first person I told, after my husband, was my own mother. She screamed so loud I had to hold the phone away from my ear. That sound, pure unfiltered joy, is something I will carry with me forever. We told his family at dinner. His mother immediately started calculating names. She slid a piece of paper across the table. I'm not joking. She had actually written a list. At the top, underlined twice, was a name. Constance. After her grandmother, who had passed away the previous decade. She said she'd always dreamed of having a grandchild carry that name forward. She said it with such certainty, like it had already been decided. Like we were just there to confirm. My husband looked at me, I looked at him. We said we'd think about it. We did think about it. For about 48 hours. And then we gently told her that we had already been discussing names, and while we honored the meaning behind Constance, a name that meant something to us, something we'd fallen in love with before she was even conceived. His mother did not take it well. She didn't yell, she never yells. She does something worse. She gets quiet and cold, and you can feel the temperature in the room drop about 10 degrees. She said she understood. She said she wasn't going to push. And then for the next 3 weeks, she said almost nothing to either of us. When she finally broke her silence, it wasn't to apologize. It was to suggest a compromise. What if we used Constance as a middle name? We'd already chosen a middle name too, one that honored my grandmother, who had passed away 2 years ago and whom I had been close to my entire life. I told her that. She said, "Oh." And then, "Well, I guess your side of the family gets everything." That sentence. I replay it sometimes when I'm trying to remind myself that what came next wasn't an overreaction. We moved into our new house in October, a 3-bedroom place we'd saved for years to afford, in a neighborhood with good schools, close enough to both our families that no one could complain about distance. During the move, my father-in-law pulled my husband aside and told him he hoped we'd reconsider some things before the baby arrived. My husband told him, respectfully, that the baby's name was decided and not up for discussion. His dad nodded slowly and said, "Your mother is just hurt." My husband said, "I understand that. But this is our child." Nothing more was said that day. But I noticed that his parents didn't tell us carry a single box. They stood in the living room, making comments about the layout. Things stayed surface-level civil through the holidays. Thanksgiving was strained. Christmas was exhausting. Every time the baby came up, his mother would find a way to redirect the conversation, or she'd say something just slightly barbed enough to sting but not quite direct enough to confront. My husband noticed. He started declining invitations to their Sunday dinners. I told him not to do that on my account. He said he wasn't doing it on my account. He was doing it because he was tired. In January, 7 weeks before my due date, my mother-in-law called me directly. My husband was at work. She started the conversation normally enough, asking how I was feeling, whether I was sleeping. And then she said it. "I want you to know that, if you change your mind about the name, your father-in-law and I are prepared to help with the nursery furniture. The set you have your eye on, we'd cover it. All of it." I sat very still. The furniture set I'd been looking at was $2,200. We had planned to buy it ourselves. It wasn't a hardship, but it wasn't nothing either. And if we don't change the name, I asked. She paused. We just feel like we're not being included in this baby's life the way we'd hoped. I told her I needed to go. I hung up. And then I sat on the kitchen floor for a while, because I didn't know what else to do. I told my husband that evening. He went very quiet in that way he does when he's actually furious. He called his mother the next day. I don't know exactly what was said. He took the call in the garage, but when he came back inside he said, "She's claiming she didn't mean it the way it sounded." He didn't look like he believed her. We didn't change the name. We didn't get the furniture. We bought it ourselves, and honestly, carrying it up the stairs together on a cold February Saturday, my husband's stopping to press his forehead to mine in the middle of the hallway, that was its own kind of gift. My daughter was born March 11th. We named her Isla. She came out screaming and pink-cheeked and absolutely furious at the world, and I loved her immediately in a way that rearranged everything inside me. My mother arrived within 2 hours. She sat beside my bed and held Isla, and cried quietly, and said nothing for a long time. My father drove through the night from Tennessee to be there by morning. My younger brothers showed up with coffee, and a ridiculous stuffed giraffe that is now Isla's most beloved possession. My in-laws did not come. My husband texted them when Isla was born. The time, the weight, a photo. His mother responded, "She's beautiful." That was all. His father sent a thumbs up emoji. They didn't come that day. They didn't come the next day. My husband called on day 3. His mother said they were giving us space to settle in. He told her space was not what we needed, that we would love for them to meet their granddaughter. She said they'd come when the time was right. The time, apparently, was never quite right. 2 weeks passed. Then 3. We were home, exhausted and overwhelmed, and also completely, deliriously in love with this tiny person. My mother had stayed for the first week and a half, cooking and doing laundry and holding Isla so I could sleep for 2 consecutive hours. My in-laws had sent a gift basket. A gift basket. My husband stopped reaching out. I didn't push him to. I was too tired to manage other people's feelings, and honestly, I was angry in a way I hadn't fully let myself feel yet. Because here's the thing. I kept turning it over in my mind, trying to find the version of this where they were justified, where maybe I had been inflexible or selfish, or hadn't understood the significance of what they were asking. But every time I ran through it, I came back to the same place. They asked us to name our daughter after someone we never met. We said no. We named her something we love, and they chose to miss her first weeks of life over it. That was a choice. They made it. Around week 4, my sister-in-law, my husband's younger sister, showed up at our door unannounced on a Thursday afternoon. She looked uncomfortable, and also resolute, the way someone looks when they've decided to do something they know is going to cause problems. She said, "I'm not here on behalf of anyone. I just want to meet her." I opened the door wider and let her in. She held Isla for an hour. She cried twice. She told us that her parents were being, in her words, absolutely ridiculous, and that she had told them so directly. She said her mother had told her to stay out of it. She had decided not to. Before she left, she hugged me and whispered, "I'm sorry. You deserved better than this." I held it together until she was out the door. Then I went to the bathroom and cried for 10 minutes, not from sadness exactly, but from the specific relief of being seen by someone from that family. My husband filed a formal complaint. I don't mean legally, I mean he sat down with his parents, finally, when Isla was about 6 weeks old, and laid it out clearly. This behavior was not acceptable, that they had a choice to make about what kind of relationship they wanted with their grandchild, that he was not going to beg them, and neither was I. He told them he loved them, but that love was not unconditional when it came to how they treated his wife. His father cried. His mother said she felt like she had lost her son to a woman who didn't value family. My husband said, "I'm sitting in your living room right now because I value family. But family means all of us, not just the parts of us you approve of." He came home quieter than usual. He made dinner. He held Isla while I ate. He didn't tell me what had been said until later that night. Once she was asleep, and he told me all of it without softening anything. I asked him how he felt. He said, like I finally said what needed to be said, and sad that it needed to be said at all. The next few weeks were a strange kind of limbo. My in-laws made occasional efforts. A text here, a dropped-off casserole there, but there was something performative about it. Like they were logging their attempts rather than actually trying. My mother-in-law once texted me directly to ask if I'd given any more thought to adding a family name going forward, which I think was her oblique way of asking about future children, and which I found so staggering I actually laughed out loud alone in my kitchen. I didn't respond. What actually shifted things, happened at Isla's 3-month gathering. We had a small celebration, just close friends and our immediate families, at our house. Nothing formal, just an afternoon. Everyone came. My family, my husband's sister, some friends from work, from college. My in-laws came too. It was the first time they had seen Isla in person. My mother-in-law picked her up and I watched her face change. Whatever wall she'd constructed came down for just a moment and I saw it. The love was real. It had always been real. That was the complicated part. She wasn't a villain. She was a woman who had been so committed to getting what she wanted that she had sacrificed weeks with her granddaughter to make a point that ultimately didn't land. But then, about an hour in, she said something to one of my cousins, loud enough that I heard it, about how she had so many ideas for Isla's middle name, maybe they'd still get to honor the family properly. My cousin gave me a look. I gave her a look back. My husband had heard it too. He waited until the guests had started to thin out, and then, in the kitchen, in front of his parents and my parents and his sister, he said clearly and without heat, Isla's name is Isla. Her middle name is what it is. It is not up for discussion now, or ever. If that's something you can't accept, then we need to have a very different conversation about what your role in her life looks like. The room went very quiet. His mother looked like she'd been slapped. His father started to say something and then stopped. My own mother, bless her, quietly picked up Isla and walked out to the backyard. My father-in-law said, "We just want to feel included." My husband said, "Then act included. Show up. Be here. Stop trying to negotiate the terms." His mother looked at me then, really looked at me, maybe for the first time since this had started. I didn't look away. I wasn't angry in that moment. I was just clear, she said quietly. "I think I owe you an apology." I nodded. "I think so too." She gave one. It wasn't perfect. It still framed some of it as a misunderstanding. But she said it. And I think she meant the core of it. His father shook my husband's hand. His sister had tears running down her face. We're not fully healed. I want to be honest about that. There are still moments when my mother-in-law says something that makes my shoulders go up around my ears. There are still times when I feel the old resentment threaten to surface. When Isla does something extraordinary, and I think about how they missed her first smile, her first weeks, because they couldn't release their grip on something that was never theirs to hold. But Isla is 4 months old now, and growing so fast it almost physically hurts. She laughs, this absurd, delighted, full-body laugh that makes everyone in a 10-foot radius smile involuntarily. She grabs my finger in her sleep. She recognizes my husband's voice from across the room. She doesn't know any of this happened. She doesn't know that her name was a battlefield, that people she'll love someday chose to stay away before they ever knew her. She just knows that she is surrounded by people who show up. My husband and I talked about it recently. Late one night after she'd gone down, he said, "I think they understand now that we're not going to fold." I said, "I think so too. I just hope it doesn't take another crisis to remember it." He reached over and held my hand in the dark. "We haven't forgotten what happened. We don't plan to. But we're choosing, deliberately, to keep the door open. Not because we owe them that, but because Isla deserves a full life and we're not going to be the ones who close it. That said, if anyone ever tries to put a condition on loving my daughter again, I will not be quiet about it, not for politeness, not for the sake of keeping the peace. She has a name, we chose it, and it's the most beautiful name I've ever heard.